We classify matter into two broad categories, pure substances and impure substances. Pure substances are those which are made up of only one kind of particles, for example, elements and compounds. Impure substances, also known as mixtures, these are the substances which are made up of more than one kind of particles. These mixtures can be homogeneous, that is, which have the same composition throughout, or heterogeneous. In these, the different proportions have different constitutions of the substances, whereas pure substances, they are always homogeneous. Now let's focus on the mixtures which are the impure substances. So we have tea. How do you make tea? You add milk, water, tea leaves, sugar and so on. So you add more than one kind of particles and hence you form tea. But when the final product is ready, you see that you are not able to distinguish the tea leaves from water or milk. So it looks the same throughout, or it is homogeneous. That is, it has the same composition throughout its mass. When you prepare a salad, you may add different vegetables in the different parts. Clearly, you are able to make out the difference in different proportions. Similarly, for these substances, you are able to make out the difference. When there is oil dissolved in water, you are able to observe that there is more of oil in one part, more of water in the other. Similarly, when you have a noodle soup, you are able to clearly make out that in one part there are more vegetables or noodles and in the other part we have more of soup. So such substances in which there is no constant composition or they have different composition throughout their mass, such substances are known as heterogeneous. Hetero means different. So in these substances, you are clearly able to make out the difference in different proportions. What do you think is pure water? Is pure water a mixture? Well, we know that pure water is made up of water molecule, which is H2O. Now in this case, hydrogen and oxygen, they are chemically combined. So this is one water molecule, and throughout water, water is made up of water molecules. So when a number of water molecules come together, so when similar water molecules, they come together, they form pure water. So in this case, we have only one kind of particles, which is the H2O molecule. So pure water is not a mixture. Pure water is a pure substance as it contains only one kind of particles and hence it is a compound. So mixtures, they are formed when two or more substances, they are combined without any chemical force acting between them. So if you take oil in water, you take any amount of oil, you add it in water. You know that you can separate this oil from water. So there is no chemical force between this oil and water. So mixtures are formed when different substances, they are mixed together, but there is no chemical force acting between these different substances. So here we have iron atoms and sulfur atoms. We use fan to mix these atoms. That is, we mix the atoms of iron and sulfur. Observe what happens. So now we have mixed these atoms. Now we'll try to separate the atoms. So you see that there is no chemical force between the iron and the sulfur atoms. Hence, we are able to separate them using physical methods. That is, we are able to separate them manually. There is no chemical force between iron and sulfur atoms. So in case of mixtures, we can separate the components using physical methods. Keep in mind, the different constituents, they are not combined using any chemical method. Since they are not chemically combined, so we can separate the constituents using physical methods. There are a number of physical methods which we will study later. But keep in mind, since the constituents of a mixture, they are not chemically combined, so we can separate these constituents using the physical methods. There are a number of mixtures. They can be formed in different ways. For example, we can have a solid liquid mixture. When you add salt or sugar to water, you get a solid liquid mixture. Since you have dissolved a solid in a liquid, so we have a solid liquid mixture. We can also have a liquid-liquid mixture. When oil, a liquid, is dissolved in water, we get a liquid-liquid mixture. When you open a can of Coke, you see fizz coming out. In this case, there is carbon dioxide dissolved in the Coke. So in this case, we have a gas dissolved in a liquid. So this is a gas-liquid mixture. Brass. This is an important substance which is made up of two metals, that is copper and zinc. Both these are solids. When they come together, they form brass, which is used to make this instrument. So this brass is a solid mixture. And you know air. Air is made up of different gases like oxygen, nitrogen, argon, and so on. So air is an example of gas-gas mixture. So now let's compare compounds and mixtures. We have seen the properties of both. So let's compare the two. We'll take examples. For example, for mixture, we'll take oil in water. And for compound, we'll take simply water. Now let's study the properties. So in case of mixtures, we know that in mixtures, two or more substances, they are not chemically combined. When you dissolve oil in water, you know that you can separate the oil from water. So oil is not chemically combined with water. But what happens in case of water? In water, we have H2O molecule. In this case, the hydrogen atoms are chemically combined with oxygen. So in case of water or in case of compound, two or more elements, they are chemically combined. But in case of mixtures, the constituents are not combined chemically. So in case of mixtures, we can have particles of more than one kind. In this case, we have oil, water. But in case of compounds, there are particles of only one kind. Water is made up of similar water molecules. Mixtures, they may be homogeneous or heterogeneous. For example, tea, it is a homogeneous mixture. Oil in water, it is a heterogeneous mixture. But compounds, they are always homogeneous. Since they are made up of only one kind of particles which have the same composition throughout, so compounds are always homogeneous. And last, we can separate the constituents of a mixture using physical methods. Why? Because we know the constituents of a mixture are not chemically combined, so we can use any physical method to separate these constituents. But in case of compounds, since the elements are chemically combined, so in this case, hydrogen is chemically combined with oxygen, so we cannot separate these two using any physical method. So for compounds, we use chemical methods to separate the constituents. So these are the properties of mixtures and compounds.